Imagine if 4 people gave birth to America's most famous criminal cases to date: Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, BTK, and John Wayne Gacy. Who were these 4 people, and what did they do? And how did the police catch them? Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Dennis Rader, known as the BTK Killer, and John Wayne Gacy is one of America's most notorious serial killers. The real surprise is that many of these people looked very ordinary from the outside. Some had jobs, some participated in social activities, and people did not suspect them much. Ted Bundy targeted a lot of young women in the 1970s. Jeffrey Dahmer committed all the murders in Milwaukee and his case became famous all over the world. The name of the BTK Killer came out of bind, torture, kill. He sent accounts to the police and the media and brought attention to his own crimes. John Wayne Gacy was a businessman and community volunteer, but later his crimes shook America. Most of these cases were related to the 1970s and 1980s. The crime spree of Ted Bundy took place in the 1970s. John Wayne Gacy was also active during this period. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes continued from 1978 to 1991. BTK Killer started crimes in the 1970s, but he escaped for many years and was finally arrested in 2005. Ted Bundy committed crimes in many states of America. Most of Jeffrey Dahmer's cases related to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. BTK Killer was active in Wichita, Kansas. John Wayne Gacy's crimes were from the Chicago area. But the question arises why it took so long for the police to catch him. Because in that era, forensic technology was not as advanced as it is today. DNA testing or digital surveillance was either not available or was very limited. In some cases, criminals used free methods to hide their identity, due to which investigation became difficult. So how did it go? Ted was caught through traffic stops and investigations. One of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims escaped from the US and was tracked down by the police, which opened the case. The BTK Killer was traced because of a digital communication. The police started getting evidence against John Wayne Gacy, after which he was arrested. These 4 cases taught law enforcement a lot of lessons. These cases played an important role in improving DNA technology, criminal profiling and modern investigation technology. Even today these cases are mentioned because they are not only stories of crimes, but also a means of learning for investigation and justice. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers suddenly disappeared in the snow-covered waters of the Soviet Union. When the rescue teams reached them, their tents were cut from the inside, some people ran into the snow without shoes, and the bodies of some were found in such a strange condition that the whole world was surprised. After all, what happened that night in Dyatlov Pass? This group was a group of 9 experienced hikers and mountaineers, led by Igor Dyatlov. All of them were young students or graduates and had a lot of experience of difficult winter expeditions, so no one had any idea that this expedition would become one of the most mysterious cases in history. In January 1959, the group went out on a challenging skiing expedition to the Ural Mountains. Everything was going well, but in early February, their contact was broken when the rescue team stormed their camp. The first strange thing was that the tent was cut from the inside. It seemed that the hikers had tried to tear the tent out from inside in an emergency. This incident happened in February 1959. The group was supposed to return on the expected date, but when they did not come, a search operation was started. After several weeks of searching, their camp and then their bodies were found one by one. This incident happened in a remote area of the Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, and today that place is known as Dyatlov Pass. This area is famous for very cold, deserted and dangerous weather conditions. This is the best mystery. Some people think that there was a huge avalanche, i.e., snowstorm here. Some say that military testing or secret experiments were being done here. Some theories also talk about UFOs and unexplained lights, but no theory can explain all the evidence perfectly. That's why Dyatlov Pass still has a mystery. The bodies of some hikers were found far away from the tent. Some people were only in underwear or light clothes, while the temperature was less than -30 degrees Celsius. Some of the victims had severe internal injuries, but there were not many external wounds on their skin. One victim's tongue was also missing, which deepened the mystery. The investigator also found unusual radiation traces on some of the covers. More than 60 years have passed, but the Dyatlov Pass incident is still considered one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in the world. Scientists, investigators, and conspiracy theorists are still trying to answer this question. What exactly happened on that cold and dark night? What do you think was the real reason for the incident in Dyatlov, avalanche, secret military test, or something else? Imagine you're traveling in a very ordinary passenger plane, and suddenly you find out that a passenger has a bomb, makes $200,000, gets the money, then jumps out of the plane with a parachute and disappears forever. More than 50 years later, no one knows what happened to him. This is the astonishing riddle of D.B. Cooper. D.B. Cooper was an unidentified man who traveled on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 on November 24, 1971, and bought the ticket in the name of Dan Cooper, but due to media reporting, he became known as D.B. Cooper. Till today no one could find out his real identity. During the flight, Cooper gave a note to a flight attendant. The note said that he had a bomb. He demanded $200,000 cash and 4 parachutes. The plane landed in Seattle. The authorities met its demand, and the passengers were released, but Cooper ordered the crew to fly the plane again. The incident occurred on November 24, 1971, the day before the Thanksgiving holiday. That night Cooper carried out the most famous unsolved hijacking in American history. Even today, it is considered to be one of the most famous cold cases of the FBI. The hijacking took place in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States. The plane picked up from Seattle and was later heading towards Nevada. Then during the flight, Cooper jumped with a parachute over the woods and hills of Washington state. After that he was never seen. This question is still very mysterious. Some people think that he came only for money. Some say that he was a military or parachute expert. According to some theories, he hid his identity and started a new life. But the real motive could never be confirmed. The plane was in the air when Cooper opened the rear staircase, put on a parachute, and jumped out of the plane on a dark, rainy night. The authorities searched for him. Years later a share of some ransom money was found on the bank of a river. But Cooper himself was never found. Neither his body was found, nor his parachute, nor could his true identity ever be confirmed. The case of D.B. Cooper is one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in the world. A man hijacked a plane, took money, jumped with a parachute and then disappeared forever. To this day no one knows whether he was alive or not. Do you think D.B. Cooper survived or died after the jump? Just think for 1 minute if there is a serial killer whose real identity is not known to anyone even after more than 50 years. Today we will talk about the Zodiac Killer, which is one of the most famous unsolved criminal cases of America's date. The Zodiac Killer was an unknown serial killer who was active in Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Often criminals hide their identities, but the Zodiac Killer himself used to send letters to newspapers and the police. He sent cryptic codes and messages that became famous all over America. To this day, no one knows for sure who he really was. Zodiac Killer has been officially linked to 5 murders and 2 attempted murders, but he claimed in his letters that he killed more people than is. The strangest thing about him was that he used to accept responsibility for his crimes by sending an account to the newspaper. There were also encrypted codes in some letters, which became a challenge for people to solve. The confirmed attacks of the Zodiac Killer took place between 1968 and 1969. His letters continued to come for many years after that. In the 1960s and 1970s, this case became very famous all over America. Most of the attacks occurred in Northern California. These places included Vallejo, Napa County, Lake Berryessa, and San Francisco. His letters were sent to newspapers in California, and Zodiac Killer became famous because he was never caught. His cryptic messages and threatening letters spread fear among the people. His mystery inspired books, documentaries and movies. Even today, people are trying to find out his real identity. At that time, forensic technology was not as advanced as it is today. DNA testing and digital surveillance were either non-existent or very limited. The police investigated many suspects, but none of the evidence was strong enough to prove that someone could be officially proved to be a Zodiac Killer. For this reason, this case is unsolved till date. The case of the Zodiac Killer is considered to be one of the world's largest unsolved mysteries. More than half a century has passed, but people still ask the same question: who was the Zodiac Killer? After all, do you think the real identity of the Zodiac Killer will ever be revealed, or will this mystery remain a secret forever? Thank you.